My husband divorced me by text message and emptied our joint account. He had no idea what was coming. This story is very meaningful. Everyone should hear it. Listen to Brian tell the story. The text came in while I was arranging a display at my boutique, the soft hum of customers browsing around me. I barely glanced at my phone at first, thinking it was just another message about a shipment or an order. But when I did, the words burned into my mind like a brand. I'm leaving you and moving to Miami with my 20-year-old girlfriend. I've already emptied our joint account. Ha ha. I didn't drop the scarf in my hands. I didn't gasp or feel my knees buckle. The only sign that my husband of 12 years had just demolished our marriage through a single text message was a slight tightening around my jaw. I glanced up at Mrs. Peterson, one of my regulars, still debating between two silk scarves. "The teal one brings out the color in your eyes," I said smoothly, smiling as if my world hadn't just collapsed. She beamed at me. "You always know best, Claire." Claire. That was me. 38 years old, owner of a thriving boutique, a woman who had just received one of the coldest goodbyes in history, while Mark, my husband, was probably sitting somewhere gloating over his grand exit. Imagining me in tears, broken, devastated, I finished wrapping Mrs. Peterson's purchase in our signature silver paper. When she left, I finally allowed myself to take a breath. I typed back a single response. "Good luck." He thought he was blindsiding me, but he had no idea. 3 months ago, I'd found a receipt, dinner for two at a high-end restaurant, on a night he'd told me he was working late. It had been the final piece in a puzzle I'd been trying to deny. The late nights, the sudden password changes, the gym memberships, the expensive new cologne. So instead of confronting him, I had done something much smarter. I had opened a separate bank account. I had transferred my personal savings there, leaving just enough in our joint account to maintain the illusion that everything was normal. I had consulted a lawyer. I had waited. My phone buzzed again. "Don't bother begging. Melissa and I leave tomorrow. I'll send for my things later." Melissa, the receptionist at his office. I had met her at the company Christmas party, watched how she laughed too loud at his jokes, touched his arm when she thought no one was looking. She was young, naive. She probably thought she was special. I didn't reply. Instead, I called my lawyer. "It's time," I said simply. "The papers are ready," she replied without missing a beat. "I'll file them first thing tomorrow. Do you want me to have him served in Miami?" I smiled. "No rush. Let him think he's won first." Another text from Mark. "I know this must be hard for you. You're not getting any younger after all. At least you have your little shop to keep you busy." My little shop. The boutique I had built from scratch. The one that made more money than his middle management salary. The one whose profits I had carefully kept separate from our joint finances. I poured myself a glass of wine, the good stuff, the one I had been saving for a special occasion. This qualified. Tomorrow, Mark would learn some hard truths about property laws and separate assets. But tonight, I would enjoy the quiet. In the morning, I woke up to a flurry of angry texts from Mark. "What the hell did you do to our credit card? The airline won't honor our tickets. The hotel canceled our reservation. Answer me." I silenced my phone and got ready for work. Fridays were always our busiest days. I had a shipment of designer handbags to unpack. Around noon, his mother called. "Claire, dear, Mark told us everything. How controlling you've been. How you drove him away. He says you're being vindictive now, causing problems with his travel plans." I put her on speaker while I arranged a window display. "Did he mention emptying our joint account and using our credit card to book tickets for him and his girlfriend?" Silence. Then, "Well, he said you left him no choice, that you've been cold and distant." Barbara, I said, still arranging scarves, I have his texts. Would you like me to read them to you? The one where he bragged about taking my money? Or maybe the one where he mocked my age? Another pause. Then, quietly, he did seem a bit cruel. I appreciate the call, Barbara, but my lawyer has advised minimal contact with Mark's family during the proceedings. Proceedings? Already in motion. Goodbye, Barbara. By late afternoon, news had spread. Mutual friends whispered about how Mark and Melissa were stuck at a budget motel near the airport. Their Miami dreams temporarily derailed. He had tried to use his personal credit cards, but they were maxed out. Another red flag I had noticed months ago. My lawyer called with an update. The emergency hearing is scheduled for Monday. Given his admission of emptying the joint account and the documented credit card fraud, we're in a strong position to freeze all remaining assets. Has he been served yet? Not yet, but he'll get the papers at his new motel address. Speaking of which, Melissa's social media was providing excellent evidence. She had been posting about their adventure all day, including some choice comments about me. I smiled. I had my own documentation. A year's worth of suspicious charges, hotel receipts, text messages that proved premeditation. My phone buzzed again. You think you're so smart? But I made copies of all the boutique's financial records. Half that business is mine. I forwarded the text to my lawyer. Let Mark learn the hard way about separate assets and business ownership. Monday arrived, and so did Mark. He showed up to court looking like a parody of himself. Designer jeans too tight for his age, a blazer that screamed midlife crisis. Melissa sat outside the courtroom, looking suddenly much younger under the harsh courthouse lighting. My lawyer presented the evidence methodically. Mark's gleeful texts about emptying our account, his credit card fraud, his documented history of hidden expenses. The judge barely looked at him. Mr. Harrison, you admitted via text message to deliberately emptying a joint account and using shared credit cards to fund a trip with your girlfriend. Do you deny this? Mark shifted uncomfortably. I was just trying to make a clean break. By committing financial fraud? The judge raised an eyebrow. The ruling was swift. All shared assets were frozen. Mark was ordered to return every cent. But that money's gone, he protested. We spent it on... Then I suggest you find a way to replace it. The judge cut him off. Outside the courthouse, I heard Melissa's voice. So, what now? I didn't hear his response. My heels clicked against the marble floor as I walked away. Back to my boutique. Back to the business he had never understood or respected. Mark had thought he was writing the ending to our story. Instead, he had set my plans in motion. And I was just getting started. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, my boutique had expanded to a second location. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Mark struggled to rebuild his life, the little shop he had mocked was thriving. I had hired 3 new employees, launched an online store, and was starting to gain national traction. News of Mark's situation trickled back through mutual acquaintances. He had tried dating apps, but women his age weren't interested in a middle-aged man still living with his parents. Younger women, having heard the office gossip, steered clear. Melissa, in an unexpected twist, had warned her friends about him. Apparently, she had shared screenshots of his desperate attempts to win her back after she left. His career suffered too. The company's HR department had investigated his relationship with a subordinate, resulting in a formal reprimand. The promotion he had been expecting went to someone else, someone who didn't have a history of inappropriate workplace relationships. He tried to claim age discrimination. Amanda, his sister, told me during an unexpected visit to my boutique. She ran her fingers over a silk scarf absent-mindedly. said they were punishing him for dating someone younger. What did HR say? I asked, amused. They added that complaint to his file. She sighed. Claire, I know we didn't support you at first. He played the victim so well, but watching how he handled everything after, I'm ashamed we ever believed him. My lawyer kept me updated on Mark's continued attempts to challenge the divorce settlement. Each petition was swiftly denied. He actually tried arguing that his text about emptying the account was just a joke, she told me, laughing. The judge asked if "ha ha ha" made theft less illegal. I had moved on, but my boutique's success brought unexpected validation. Local business magazines started reaching out, wanting to feature my story. Not as a scorned ex-wife, but as a savvy businesswoman who had protected her interests. The best protection is preparation, I told a young entrepreneur who reminded me of Melissa. And always trust your instincts. Mark's mother still called occasionally, usually after he had done something particularly self-destructive. He tried online gambling, hoping for a quick fix, she sighed during one call. Then he got involved in some pyramid scheme. Every time he digs himself into a hole, he blames someone else. You, Melissa, his company, the judge. I listened politely, but I maintained my distance. Their family drama wasn't my problem anymore. My life had moved forward, filled with plans for a third boutique location and a possible expansion into luxury accessories. The only reminder of Mark in my life was a framed screenshot hanging in my office. His final text before I blocked him. Have fun with your little shop. At least it'll keep you busy in your old age. Below it sat my latest business award. Proof that sometimes the best revenge is simply succeeding on your own terms. 1 year after the divorce, I hosted a grand opening for my third boutique location. The event attracted local media, and the story they wanted to tell wasn't about my failed marriage. It was about a successful businesswoman expanding her brand. And then, out of nowhere, Melissa walked in. She looked younger than ever. Or maybe I just felt stronger? She clutched her purse like a shield. I owe you an apology. I arched an eyebrow. I believed everything he told me, she continued, about how you were cold, controlling, how you didn't support his dreams. Then I watched him try the same manipulation tactics on me when things got tough. I went back to arranging a display of designer sunglasses. Those weren't his dreams, Melissa, I said without looking at her. They were escapes. There's a difference. I know that now, she admitted. He thought my studio apartment would be temporary after you froze the accounts. After 2 weeks of him complaining about the size of my closet and suggesting I take out a loan for a bigger place, I understood what you meant about the difference between dreams and escapes. I actually laughed at that. Let me guess, I said. He had big plans, but no way to fund them? Exactly, she sighed. Everything was going to work out once his investments paid off. Once he got that promotion. Once his cryptocurrency definitely increased in value. And now? I'm dating someone my own age. We have student loans and a small apartment. But at least we're building something real. After she left, my assistant manager whispered, "Was that the girlfriend?" I glanced at Melissa walking away, head held higher than before. "No," I replied. "That was just another woman who learned the same lesson I did." Mark's mother called one last time, not to discuss him, but to thank me. "You taught our family an important lesson," she said, "about enabling bad behavior, about making excuses for cruelty. Mark is still living at home, still blaming everyone else for his problems. But we're not defending him anymore." I thought about that legacy as I reviewed plans for a fourth location. Mark had intended to diminish me, to trade me in for a younger model, to take half of everything I had built. Instead, He had inadvertently pushed me to become even stronger, more successful. My phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer. Mark filed another petition to revisit the settlement. Judge dismissed it immediately and ordered him to pay court costs. Thought you'd enjoy that? Double asterisk. I smiled, picturing him in his childhood bedroom, still trying to rewrite an ending that had already been determined the moment he underestimated me. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better. Yes, the story is still following the original framework while expanding on emotions, dialogues, and additional scenes to deepen the impact. Now, I'll continue. 2 years after Mark's cruel text message, I received an invitation to speak at a women's business conference. The topic wasn't divorce or betrayal. It was about building and protecting a successful business. My story had evolved from a cautionary tale to an inspiration. During the Q&A session, a woman hesitantly raised her hand. She looked young, maybe late 20s, with uncertainty in her eyes. "My husband says I'm being paranoid," she said. "He says marriage means sharing everything, and I should stop worrying about keeping finances separate. Do you think I'm overthinking?" I held back a smile. "My ex-husband said the same thing," I replied, right up until he tried to claim half my business in the divorce. Some in the audience gasped. Others nodded knowingly. "Trust your instincts," I continued. "Protection isn't paranoia. It's preparation." After the conference, a small crowd gathered around me, women asking for advice, sharing their own experiences. I saw pieces of myself in them. The doubt, the fear, the determination. My boutique chain had grown to 5 locations, each more successful than the last. The little shop Mark had mocked now employed over 30 people and had been featured in several national magazines. Through mutual friends, I heard Mark had finally moved out of his parents' house, into a teeny apartment above a garage. He's still calling himself young at heart on his dating profile, one friend told me, rolling her eyes, but his profile picture is like 10 years old. Melissa, ironically, had become a regular customer at my original boutique. "You inspired me," she admitted one afternoon, showing that a woman can build something lasting instead of falling for empty promises. I nodded, accepting her words, but keeping a polite distance. We had learned the same lesson, just at different times. But the final confirmation that I had truly moved past Mark came on the 5-year anniversary of my first boutique's opening. The event was a celebration of growth, resilience, and success. My employees and loyal customers filled the store, raising glasses of champagne to what we had built together. And then, amidst the crowd, I saw her, Mark's mother. I hadn't invited her, but there she was, smoothing down her designer dress, one she had bought from my store. She waited until the crowd thinned before approaching me. "I saw Mark yesterday," she said. I didn't react. "He was talking about his glory days," she continued, "about the life he could have had. But he still doesn't understand." She hesitated. "He didn't lose everything in the divorce, Claire. He threw it away." I thought about that for a moment, about the text message that had started it all, about how he had assumed I would crumble, about how, instead, I had built something greater than before. I didn't feel anger anymore, or even pity. I felt nothing. And that, I realized, was the real victory. My newest sales associate, coincidentally named Melissa, interrupted us, holding a clipboard. "Claire, do you have a minute? I wanted to talk about our inventory system updates." "Of course," I said, turning away from the past. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the store window. Mark had failed to see it 5 years ago. I wasn't. A woman getting older. I was a woman getting stronger. more successful, more than he had ever imagined. His cruel text message had meant to be an ending. Instead, it had been my beginning. As I stood in my flagship boutique, watching the soft glow of the evening lights reflect off the glass displays, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. Everything I had built, everything I had worked for, stood as a testament to the choices I had made. The woman who had once received a cruel text message, the woman Mark had assumed would crumble, no longer existed. In her place stood someone stronger, wiser, untouchable. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. It was a text from an unknown number. I made a mistake. I stared at the screen, my lips curling slightly in amusement. Mark. I had blocked his number years ago, but he must have found a way to reach me. Another message came through. I thought things would be different. I thought I'd be happy. But nothing has worked out. I lost everything. You were right about everything. For a brief moment, I pictured him, sitting alone in his tiny apartment, surrounded by the remnants of his past. His reflection in a dusty mirror, eyes hollow, realizing, too late, that he had destroyed his own life. He had spent years blaming everyone else. But now, finally, he understood. But understanding didn't mean undoing. Another message. Can we talk? I smiled to myself, not out of malice, but because I knew that once upon a time I would have wanted this. I would have wanted his regret, his sorrow, his admission of failure. But now, he was nothing more than a lesson I had already learned. I deleted the messages. Outside, the city lights sparkled, alive with movement, with growth, with possibility. Mark was a shadow of the past. I was the future. If there's one thing this journey has taught me, it's this. Never let someone else define your worth. Never let their betrayal be your downfall. Prepare, protect, succeed. Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. It's about moving forward so far, so fast, that they become nothing more than a distant memory in your rearview mirror. What do you think? Have you ever had to rebuild after betrayal? Let's talk in the comments.